You're listening to Real Crime, the Movie Sleuth podcast.
Oh, yes, smothered in onions. Delicious.
Delicioso.
We are so happy to be here tonight, especially me.
I can tell.
No, we got a really cool topic we're going to talk about tonight. This should be a very productive evening for all of us here at the Movie Sleuth and the lovely Real Crime. As you can see on the webcam, because Chris insists that people have to see us now, this is a no vagina zone. This is a wiener-only zone. This is the He-Man Woman Haters Club tonight on Real Crime. Just the boys, kind of how the cards played out. We miss you, girls. We'll hopefully see you soon here on the show. But
Next
tonight,
week they'll be back.
Tonight it's just the boys.
The boys.
The boys. And as I always said, we have a really cool topic. However, we don't have a monitor tonight. This is really, and you know,
Yeah.
I like how you just kind of dropped that. I said, and you guys, okay, I'm talking to you people on the webcam thingy now. All this technology.
It was a
crap.
rush day today.
Yeah, but you guys saw it, and so there's proof of it. There's an artifact that you laid that on us, like right literally before you pushed the button to start the show.
Yeah, sorry.
You snake in the grass, and I'm like, do. I'm like, okay, well, too late now. I just got to go. So I don't know what show we're on. I don't see anything. I'm flying blind here.
It's episode 81.
Thank you.
Yes. Episode 81. How
80.
the hell did we get here?
I have no idea.
Wow.
Yeah. It's
We
been
still
a
have
while.
ideas too. That's great. That's actually really cool.
The Nightmare on Elm Street podcast did like really, really good.
That's awesome.
We like doubled our numbers on that podcast.
Did we?
Yeah. It was
Wow.
great. Yeah.
People love a Nightmare on Elm Street.
One thing I would like to take the floor for just 1 second and point something out. I don't know. There may be a handful of people in our listening audience here that know who this man was, but Art Bell passed away last Friday. I don't know if you guys know who Art Bell is. Do you know who Art Bell is?
Yes.
I do.
Art Bell was kind of the guy who invented paranormal radio, which is kind of my other iron in the fire here when it comes to doing podcasts and talk stuff. Huge influence on Ghostly Talk, my other show. So when we got that news Saturday morning, that kind of knocked the wind out of us. That was a huge loss to the community. Art Bell really was one of the originators. He was the guy. I mean, he was a true trailblazer. And that he just made that decision back in those days that he wanted to talk about weird stuff. And he did, Art Bell, Dreamland, and then he did Coast to Coast AM, which
And kind of changed the whole spectrum of that format.
It was the biggest show, and it was the biggest midnight show in the world. I mean, he had more listeners than anybody at one time. So, in Art Bell, he went on to do other things. He did Midnight in the Desert, which was his last show. Heather Wade's taking that show over now, and Godspeed to her on that, and also Godspeed to Art Bell too, because that was just that was a punch in the head, and he'll be sorely missed. He was really responsible for the other stuff that I do in radio now.
Also, the loss of Arlie Ermy this
God,
week too.
man,
Yeah,
what a
yeah.
shit. Harry Arnold.
Yeah.
We lost Harry Arnold also.
Oh, yeah.
Harry Arnold from Night Court.
Right.
Lost him over the weekend too. It was a grim weekend, man. It was
Yeah.
just a grim weekend. Yeah, Arlie Ermy. I mean, the guy wasn't in a million movies. He wasn't in a lot of flicks, but what he was in, I mean, come on, Full Metal Jacket. I mean, I know that's the first thing that pops in everybody's head.
Yeah.
But if you saw anybody who saw that movie, and there's always going to be that argument of, the first half's the best, the second half's stupid, which I don't agree with. I think that whole movie is really, really amazing.
Full Metal Jacket?
Yeah. People always say the first half's way better than the second half. I'm like, no, it's a great movie all around. They're just different.
Well, a lot of people don't realize with Full Metal Jacket is, and I learned this in my Vietnam on film course that I had at college.
Yeah.
Full Metal Jacket is actually two different movies. It's two
It really
separate
is.
movies.
No, it's two separate stories.
You've got boot camp, and then you've got the war.
You got the
and
war,
it's actually
yeah.
broken up into two totally different
And they're very
scenarios.
distinct. I mean, it's a major shift. I mean, you can feel it, you can see it. But Arlie Ermy pretty much owned the first story of Full Metal Jacket. That was his movie. I never saw anything like that in a film. And you could just watch that over and over again. And I can't even count the number of bands and media people that have used Arlie Ermy's sound bites from that thing.
Oh, yeah.
There was just
Samples
There was
and
just
loops and
one
whatnot.
thing after another. That guy was as hard as nails. He was the real deal. He was no bullshit. That guy was the real deal.
He
man.
really was.
He was
He really was.
I mean, and he comes from a generation and a time and a place that we're not going to ever see again.
Yeah.
He really was. I would call the old guard,
and a legend in his own right.
Total legend, and not just movies, but in the military, all over the world. The guy really was the real deal, all class, and that really sucks to see that man leave us. Also. So yeah, rest in peace, Godspeed to these people, man. We're losing amazing people.
Yep.
Do you guys? I mean, I don't want to riff on this for too long, but I saw this especially like over the weekend because all this shit happened here. Arnold, Arlie Ermy, Art Bell. We're seeing all this, and we've said this before. I think on the show is just I think it really is social media and news in general and the internet where we just get this news like bang. I mean, we talked about the Tom Petty thing. The guy wasn't even dead yet. And they were already, I mean, he's got his own daughter going, hey guys, can we give like 15 minutes please before we start doing all the memorials and shit on the web? Mm-hmm. It seems like it's a difficult time because of that, because every day, I mean, damn near every day for me, whether it's music or movies or something, anything, I got my beak in, we're getting to a point where it just seems like people are dying all the time, or maybe it was people were always dying all the time.
People were always dying.
People were always dying.
People were always dying, but people that are in our parents' age group are really starting to die off now.
Yeah.
And a lot of these people are of that age bracket.
They are.
So we're going to see a lot of that.
We're seeing a lot of that. So, it is a very real thing, but I think it also is the internet that it's exposed to us like bang right there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, all right, moving along. Sorry.
All right. So I just want to mention our sponsors, the Flit Institute of Arts. I will be out there Thursday for their media day. Finally going out there. It's supposed to be really cool. A lot of new stuff they've got going on. Also, projectorscreen.com. So make sure you check them out.
Check them out, yeah.
In news this week, they just announced today that Vin Diesel is coming back to make another XXX movie.
Boy, imagine that.
Yeah, imagine that. I didn't even think the third one did that well, but they're doing a XXX4. Maybe just call it like
Quadruple X.
I was going to say, is it Quadruple X?
Yeah.
This is the filthiest thing you'll ever see.
Quadruple X starring Vin Diesel. Anyways, moving along, Ed Skrein has actually joined the Maleficent sequel. He will be playing the villain. I'm a little confused by this because I always thought Maleficent was the villain. So, a little weird. Just a little weird. Enough sequels of these Disney movies. Just terrible, terrible, terrible. Steven Spielberg has announced he is going to be helming a DC Comics movie, which is very, very strange for Spielberg to do.
Interesting.
It's a World War II comic, Black Hawk. Spielberg is going to be helming it. So kind of fits in his wheelhouse, though, if it's about the war.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, DC does need to do something to rehab the image of their film line.
Yeah, because it's not been very happy. Josh Brolin came out today and said there's actually a 4-film arc scheduled for him playing Cable. So he's got...
Very cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
So he's got numerous
Brolin.
other films he's going to be appearing in.
Number 4 on my band crush list.
Yeah.
Josh Brolin.
Kathy Yan, I have no idea who this woman is. I've never heard of her before.
Yan.
Y-A-N. She's going to be directing the upcoming Harley Quinn movie, which is supposedly based on Birds of Prey, which some people are confused by because Harley Quinn was not in the Birds of Prey. So I'm not really totally sure what's up with this deal. So that's our news for this week. In new releases, we've got I Feel Pretty, starring Amy Schumer, who I personally cannot stand. So
let's watch that one crash and burn.
Yeah. And we've got Traffic, which actually was pretty decent. I've
seen a lot of promo for that.
Yeah, I interviewed the director, Dion Taylor. I interviewed him last week, so we're going to have that interview up for the weekend. It's actually a national release, so it's pretty cool getting to talk to the guy.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
Yep.
Wow.
And then we've got Super Troopers 2 finally dropping.
I'm excited for Super Troopers 2.
I think a lot of people are excited.
Yeah, that's been a long time in the making.
Yeah, I'm kind of keeping my expectations tempered a bit, since no other Broken Lizard movie has really ever been that
they were all
good.
shitty. Club Dread.
Club Dread is
terrible.
abysmal. Pina Coladaburg was a funny joke. The rest of that movie was terrible.
It really was. I mean, and I think my problem was watching Club Dread. I mean, it's all the same guys, and they're all great. But I just wanted to see them all in cop uniforms again, and we're going to see.
I wanted to see them do good comedy again.
Yeah, I was having a hard time breaking them out of those great characters they had in Super
I'll be
Troopers.
honest, I've never seen Super Troopers. I've never seen any of these
Super
movies.
Troopers.
Super Troopers is hilarious.
It is a dumb as hell stoner comedy.
Oh my
but
God,
it's really good.
Chugging maple syrup. I mean, there's just all these ridiculous things that happen.
It will go on my schedule.
You should watch
it.
You really should watch it.
So, suggested viewings this week. I have one thing that I want to suggest.
What's that, Chris?
And it kind of goes along with our theme tonight, our topic.
Yeah.
The Lost in Space relaunch.
Oh, everybody's talking about that.
It looks cool. It looks really cool.
It does look cool.
I gave it a fair review. It's not the greatest thing. Some of the writing is pretty bad. Like the first episode, you just could tell they didn't know where they were going with it, and they made a lot of bad choices. But the robot is cool. Parker Posey is there as Dr. Smith, which, I mean, really...
Parker Posey is just always awesome.
Yeah. She plays, an egomaniacal sociopath pretty well. So
She does.
Yes. So I would suggest watching it. Go in with low expectations, and I think you might come out enjoying it.
I mean, after the 90s Lost in Space, expectations can't get all that much lower.
See, I actually liked that one. I was actually a fan of that one.
I loved it when I was a kid, and then I rewatched it when I was older.
Right. It's got Gary Oldman in it, though.
It does have
Gary Oldman. So it can't be
Oldman.
that bad. It can't be that bad. So...
Yeah, but it also has Matt LeBlanc in it. So maybe it can.
It certainly does. So, Chris, what suggested viewing would you have this week?
So I checked out the Scream Factory Collector's Edition that recently came out of The Strangers, which I had never seen.
Oh, sweet.
And I really liked it. I remember that being one that didn't really do well at the time and just kind of like gradually built steam as kind of like a sleeper favorite. It was really creepy, really, really well shot. An honestly better movie than I expected it to be. Like, the characters were really good, their relationship felt really real, and that made it all the more just really creepy. And that is an unbelievably nihilistic movie in a way that I did not expect it to be. I mean, I kind of did, but you'd never really expect something that a studio actually finances to be that grim. How do you guys feel about that one?
I love that movie.
Never seen The Stranger.
And I really liked the sequel that was just out, too.
Yeah, I heard that the sequel was good.
A lot of people didn't like it, but I actually really enjoyed it.
I may have seen it. I have no memory anymore.
You saw it when it was out.
I mean, I was going to say it's...
With Liv Tyler and the three people in the masks break into their house at night.
Oh...
You've seen it.
I had to have seen it.
The original was out about 10 years ago.
That's all right. You give me homework. I'll see it now. I'll check it out for sure.
Yeah?
Speaking of homework, I did do some homework. The lovely Heather, who's also on the show here, not this week, though. There's an empty chair over there. She suggested a couple weeks ago The Bad Batch to check out. She was raving about that a couple weeks ago. So I finally got a couple hours on Sunday to sit down, and I made it a point to watch this film. And Heather, thank you so much for pointing me in that direction. I really super enjoyed The Bad Batch. With some really, and she, the names alone, I mean, Keanu Reeves, Jim Carrey was in the film, both playing very, very different roles. I mean, it's not what you expect, and that's what makes the movie so special. There was a lot of people have, as I was telling Chris before the show, I did watch a lot of reviews after, just out of curiosity, to kind of see what other people were thinking. And I'm glad to know that I was kind of in the same spot. While I really enjoyed the film, I think there's a lot of films we're seeing come out now that kind of have like this weird kind of just not plotless, but they're kind of a very loose, there's a story being told, but it isn't like a real, like, it doesn't wrap up real nice at the end, right?
Yeah.
A lot of films are being made that way, which I do like a lot of movies that way. I kind of like things being left to the imagination. a lot of people did say they're like, we're getting tired of this kind of shit, though.
Yes.
we just want a story to be told. We want it to end. And if you've seen The Bad Batch, you probably have the same questions that I had at the end of the movie. However, as far as disturbing imagery and disturbing ideas, and what the concept of the film is, very original, very cool, very fresh, and very cringe-inducing in a lot of ways. There was some stuff I saw in that movie that just really made me kind of just draw myself back on the couch, just going, "Oh God, I can't watch it." So, but really enjoy that. Thank you, Heather, for pointing me in that direction. So that's my suggested viewing for this week. What's today? 17th.
Yeah.
March. I'm sorry, of April.
It feels like March.
It feels like January.
It's terrible.
Yeah, don't come to Michigan right now. Stay away. It sucks. But yeah, that's a cool flick. Check it out. Moving on. What are we doing now? I don't have a guide, so you get, Chris, you got to tell me what you want me to do here.
Our topic tonight is movie remakes.
Our topic tonight is movie remakes.
Yeah.
That's the topic, yeah. We don't think we've ever really done anything like this before.
Not really.
Well, I know the direction now we're taking is to kind of like do more directed topics like this.
Yes.
Yeah. Kind of zero in a little bit, like we did last week with Nightmare on Elm Street. People seem to really dig that. So we're probably going to. I think we discussed that after the show last week. We're gonna be doing more like franchises, possibly. We can all bite down on. We'll go after it like that. This week's going to be a bit more of a wider subject, and it is remake films. Now, let's start with the obvious though, because this is something we talked about when we were chatting about that. This over the last couple of days, is there's reboots and there's remakes. Chris, or either one of you guys, I guess, because you guys will be able to do this much more elegantly than I can. I'm curious. You tell me, what is the difference between a reboot and a remake?
So I would say that a remake is, you take the same story, the same characters, and you tell it again. A reboot is, it kind of like, in a sense, remakes the same world, maybe the same characters, maybe not, but a different story. So, like Lost in Space, it's not, remaking episodes of the original show. It's taking the general concept, doing something totally different with it.
It's a reboot. That's a
reboot.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that's the difference.
Star Trek. Star Trek,
yeah.
The new Star Trek movies on the Kelvin timeline, that is a reboot. It's not a remake. It's not telling the same story over again. Whereas a movie like the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that was a remake. It was generally the same story as the original.
Yeah.
Just a little more brutal and more modernized.
Yeah.
So I think there's a definite fine line drawn between a reboot and a remake, and I think a lot of people get confused about that.
Well, a lot of people, increasingly, it kind of bothers me. It's a pet peeve of mine that people use the term reboot indiscriminately.
Oh, I'm saying they use it like
whether it's a real reboot or a remake or like referring to much belated sequels as a reboot really bothers me. Like, like the new Roseanne or the new Twin Peaks is not a reboot. It's season 10 and season 3 of the exact same show.
That's a continuation.
It's a continuation. Although, there is, like, people talk about, like, like soft reboots or whatnot, like on Doctor Who, when the Doctor regenerates and the cast switches over, but it's in the same continuity, and it's sort of like a soft reboot where it, like, doesn't break the continuity, but it offers, like, an entry point where people can jump in. Like, I guess there's probably a conversation to be had about, like, what is Fury Road, for instance. Like, is that a soft reboot? Is it a hard reboot? Is it a sequel, and that's not really Max, but the feral kid from The Road Warrior?
Right. I kind of view Fury Road as a reboot just because it's a new guy playing the character. Nothing from the other movies is referenced at all.
Yeah.
Definitely not a remake because it doesn't repeat anything from any of the other movies. So,
it kind of flashes back to, like, the image of, his wife and kid getting hit by the truck in the first one, but it shows it differently. So.
Yeah.
I like the fan theory that that's just the feral kid from the second film who just took Max's name.
Somebody here just asked us, would Batman be considered a remake? So I guess that depends on which Batman film, but I would say each rendition of Batman has been more or less a reboot.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a different person playing the character. But like Nolan's Batman, that is a total reboot because he wasn't even really basing it that much on the comics. Like, that's not Batman from the comics. That's Christopher Nolan's version or vision of Batman.
Agreed.
So that, to me, is a reboot.
Yes. And I think that also kind of gets us into another area that I wanted to bring up that is sort of not reboots or remakes, but just a whole other adaptation of the same thing.
Yes.
Where, like, a lot of these... We'll talk... this will come up a bunch, because that's a much more gray area, where, like, there's a lot of movies where, like, it's not a remake of this movie, it's another adaptation of the book.
Right.
That is very... And, like, I had the conversation with a lot of, you know, grumpy... You know, get off my lawn 80s horror fans, like, oh, how dare they remake It? Like, well, they're not really remaking the 90s miniseries It. They're adapting the book again in a way that's totally different.
Yeah, and see, that one rides a fine line because a lot of people said remake, and I don't even think it's really a remake.
No.
I think it's just a new...
It's a new adaptation of the book.
Right.
And that's another... It's all these things blur a lot, and it's very tenuous lines. And
Yeah. I wanted to throw something else in that's a little bit off the beaten path here. I just thought about this, and I actually had to look it up.
Okay.
You guys remember Neurotically Yours on YouTube? Foamy the Squirrel? You guys ever watch any of those?
Yeah.
Okay. This is one that just popped in my head, actually. And it's not really... It's a series.
They
on
remake
YouTube.
Foamy the Squirrel?
Well, one thing I remember watching, because I wasn't a huge fan, but I was watching Neurotically Yours for a long time, right?
Yeah.
And there's all them people that used to just, like, freak out about the chick. I forgot her name. But they actually did a reboot of her. There was an episode they did because as this series went along, the girl put on more and more weight. So she was like this hot goth chick, you know?
Yeah.
With Foamy the Squirrel as her pet that would just scream and yell at her and give her shit all the time. It was a lot of fun. What's that?
I got to see this.
Oh, it was fun. It was fun stuff to watch.
You never watched that?
No.
It was fun, yeah. But she got really fat. Like, they kept making her bigger and bigger. And they finally got to an episode, I remember watching it, where they said, I can do whatever I want with this thing. So he just reboots it, and she's skinny again, and she's pretty, and they restarted. He just rebooted the thing by himself. There was no real reason for it. He just said, I can do whatever I want. It's my cartoon. It's my series. So I'm just going to reboot it. So they literally do like a time warp thing where they run her back. And she's just skinny again. Different take on that idea, but I thought it was kind of interesting, you know. I just kind of thought about it as we were talking about this thing too. So I don't know if that's like a hard reboot of
that.
Of something.
Also just made me think of when they rebooted the Syphil and Ollie show.
Oh, okay,
Machinima on YouTube, and it kind of really sucked. And so then they rebooted it again on the Nerdist channel.
Oh my god!
And in the first episode, they were like, "Oh, welcome to the first episode since the '90s." Like, wait, no, weren't we already back on another YouTube channel? They're like, "No, that never happened at all. What are you talking about?"
Well, my buddy Jay just pointed out,
via
the chat here, that Cape Fear.
Yep,
Cape Fear is a perfect specimen of a remake.
Yeah,
it is.
I think I put it on my list too.
It is on the list.
Robert De Niro is harsh as hell in that.
Both of those movies are fucking incredible.
Yeah, Robert Mitchum in the first one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the remake is Robert De Niro.
Yeah.
But the remake of that, Cape Fear, like, if you asked me to make a list of the best remakes ever,
Cape Fear
that would
be
probably
close to the top.
at the top of the list.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's a phenomenal film across the board.
It's just intense.
Oh, yeah.
Jessica Lange, you know, everybody in that movie is...
It's intense.
Oh, yeah.
It's just intense.
Yeah,
man.
and Mitchum and De Niro are such different takes on the character, but are both creepy as hell.
Hell yes.
Oh, also, tying it into last week's, Freddy is dressed like Robert Mitchum from Cape Fear. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
I did not notice
a
that.
striped sweater and a fedora. That's where
Holy
Freddy's
crap.
outfit came from.
You're lying.
No, seriously, I'm pretty sure.
Seriously, that, yes.
And I think I've read that actually was deliberate and is not just a
That was an
coincidence.
inspiration for Freddy.
Yeah.
The more you know.
The more you know.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
This is why I have to start doing drugs.
Yes.
I'd be like, whoa. I'd be like, just my whole head would just like rainbows would come out of my head. It'd be awesome, dude.
I'm glad I could provide this,
thank
this
you.
moment.
You know, We did touch on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre a few minutes ago, but that's another one. I know a lot of people don't like the remake. I love it. It is. Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite.
The one with Arlie. This is the one we're talking about.
The one with Arlie Ermy and Jessica Biel and that femme bouteille.
And that's the one I always talk about with the camera shot of the bullet.
Yeah,
that's the one that has that shot. I've mentioned that I had here a bunch of times. One of my favorite shots is just that friggin' bullet flying.
It's cool.
It's wicked.
Cool.
It's an amazing piece of work. And yeah, I mean, it wasn't amazing to me, but it did justice, I think, to the story.
Oh yeah.
It was gritty. It had that same feel.
Oh yeah.
Arlie Ermy was just pissed. So it's like, oh man.
Yeah. That remake is so grimy and disturbing.
It is.
Yeah.
Like in a way that I would never have expected a big studio remake of Texas Chainsaw to be. Like in a way it's almost kind of nastier than the original, because the original is surprisingly just suggested but not shown most of the awful stuff that happens in the movie. And then the remake is just all right front and center. Like that one, I found that hard to watch the first time I saw that remake.
Yes, yeah, there's a lot of gross stuff in that one.
Yeah, they really put a lot of stuff in your face. There was nothing to be left to the imagination. Yeah, very good. It was a good remake, I guess. So we were talking about that before the show. I think we were discussing that briefly. I was like, I was going to make a list of good remakes and shit remakes and just didn't get around to it.
Yeah, and I think let's just talk about just that idea for a second, because I think, like, it's cool to it is definitely cool to shit on remakes and be like, oh, all remakes suck. But I think what everybody means, like, there's sort of obviously two types of remakes. And Scott, you were saying this before the show. There's remakes that are there only to make money, and remakes that are there because someone had a good idea of like, oh, there's this iconic story, I can think of something new to do with it.
Well, the thing is, too, and there's been a lot of great movies I've seen over the last 10 years especially, that I'm like, man, that movie was the shit. Like, that's a remake. And the words, the dreaded, that's a remake. And I'm like, oh, shit. No.
And that's...
like The Departed. Okay, that's a remake, and I love that movie. Like, the new one.
Really good.
I love it, and they're like, oh, that's totally a remake, and it was actually a remake of I got it right here,
Infernal Affairs.
Thank you very much. Yep, Infernal Affairs, which I may have seen that too, but just didn't put the two together. Great remake, and I would consider that, because they put a lot of time into that. I mean, that was not a joke. That was Martin Scorsese who did that. There was so many beautiful little elements in that movie, just down to the cell phone buzzing, which still, I can watch that movie and hear a cell phone buzzing, and I will still look at my damn phone, be like. There's some really great things they did with that movie. So I don't really think that was much of a cash grab. I think they took a really great story, because it's a complex story.
Oh, my
God, is that a complex story?
And this was not a cash grab. This was taking a foreign film, bringing it to the domestic market under the direction of Martin Scorsese, who turned it into definitely one of the better crime sagas of the last decade or so.
Yeah, but again, like, he didn't do it just because, like, oh, I bet that an American version of Infernal Affairs would do well. He did it because he thought, like, oh, this story would be really interesting if told in Boston.
Yeah.
And like, and it feels very much like it sort of runs parallel to me with like Gangs of New York. Like, those are, in a way, kind of very similar movies, and like the grandiose scale of their crime saga and the trajectory of the main character. But yeah, so that's why I think like the sort of knee-jerk, like, oh, all remakes are bad thing, like, it's not true. There's like it's fairly obvious like which is which, and it's always like, it's not like, oh, is it a remake? It's like, was this remake made for any reason besides money?
Well, Lee Lind is here, and he just mentioned Old Boy. The Old Boy remake is treacherous,
horrible
to get through.
Yeah, Josh Brolin.
So I hear. I did not subject myself to it.
I have a copy of it.
Me and Michelle and Jesse and Heather. There were like 4 or 5 of us that went to go see it. I think they were all there. I know me and Michelle were there. It was painful to get through because it's just not good. It's just not good.
Yeah.
Yeah. But this was another attempt to take a foreign film and, translate it to U.S. audiences, and it just didn't work. It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Something about the original works, even with U.S. audiences. You know, like, they think we're too stupid or something to watch a film with subtitles and get the context of the foreign movie that we have to have an American remake? No. Just no.
Well, there was,
Yeah.
I mean, another obvious one, at least to me, and I'll be totally honest. Maybe I'm talking on my ass saying this, but the Martyrs remake, I didn't even watch it. So
I've heard nothing but horrible things about the Martyrs remake.
And I didn't see it based on that. It's because I own the original, and that's one of the hardest things to watch. Not because it's a bad movie, it's just an insane movie, and we've raved about that movie a million times on this podcast.
Well, the problem with Martyrs is the fact that the first film is a literal piece of art.
Yeah.
And then you attach directors to it here that don't really understand, how to do that and how to make an artful horror movie. I actually interviewed Bailey Noble when that movie was coming out, and I interviewed her for the Martyrs remake. And she was all about, it's horrifying, it's this, it's that, blah, 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 blah. And I never bothered watching it because I didn't want to, but Jesse did watch it.
Yeah.
And just said it was abysmal, just terrible. All the brutality is cut out. It doesn't have any of the horrifying elements of the original, from what I understand.
I mean, the premise, I always have said that the premise of that movie really can hold its own. And just saying, if this remake held on to that premise, that may be able to save it, but I'm just afraid if I just don't want to lose an hour and a half of my life. I'm sorry. I've seen the original Martyrs, and it's that good. But, and it's because it's that insane to watch. It's that hard to watch. It's a horrifying movie. And the premise of the film, that's the beauty of the film is the premise, because it's so horrifying. But if you understand the premise, you're like, whoa, holy crap, right? Trippy film. Fuck making a remake of that. I'll never see that movie.
Yeah.
I don't want to see it. And I don't know if that was a cash grab. I mean, why? What's the reason?
Yo,
What's the reason?
With that and Old Boy, I've got to ask. Like, even with Old Boy, even though that was Spike Lee, did it feel like he had a compelling reason to retell that story, or did it feel like a studio was like, hey, this is a pretty notorious film, let's get some director with good art house cred and pay him a bunch of money to make this?
You know what? I really couldn't tell because the movie was so shitty.
Then
Josh Brolin is great. Josh Brolin is great. Elizabeth Olsen is always great. She was good in the film too. It was just something about watching it that you're sitting there going like, the textures aren't right. The cinematography doesn't look the same. It doesn't have that same gritty feel as the original. And sometimes when you're watching an actor do it the first time, you really get sucked into that character because you've never associated with them before. With the remake, it just felt like just cheap and not like it. I don't know. I have a hard time explaining it. It was just a shit remake.
Well, okay, so follow-up question. The way you describe it, was it another thing like the Psycho remake where it's just like an almost shot-for-shot, just like carbon copy? Ooh.
Yes.
And remakes like that bother me almost more than any others because it's like they extra have no real right to exist.
Yes.
Like if you're just carbon copying the original and not adding anything new, like why? Why are you even doing it?
Why bother?
Yeah, because like
go watch the original again.
Yeah, like Psycho, like Gus Van Sant's a good filmmaker, but he's not. No one's gonna take those exact shots and that exact script and make a better movie than Hitchcock did. So like, why not just make your own Hitchcockian movie that's something else?
I always felt with the Psycho remake that it was more or less Gus Van Sant seeing if he could do it or not, and stay within the budgetary constraints of making it. And also, I mean, as much as the movie sucks, Vince Vaughn is a pretty damn good Norman Bates in that movie.
Vince Vaughn, people forget what a good dramatic actor he was before he became comedy star Vince Vaughn.
Yes.
Like we bring up The Cell a lot on this podcast. I fucking love The Cell.
Cell's great.
Yeah.
Okay, here's a good one.
Okay.
Scarface.
Oh yeah.
You never saw Scarface. Did you see Scarface?
I really hate Scarface. I know it's a minority opinion.
That's all right. It's cool.
Strongly dislike Scarface.
Why?
I just find it just a really grating,
you don't like the strong language,
movie.
Do you? The strong language.
No, the thing about Scarface that always bugs me is that is sort of playing at being a, commentary on American excess, but then it's also just wallowing in excess itself. Like, it really, really is trying to have its cake and eat it too and act all sanctimonious and intelligent while being the exact same thing.
Yeah.
But, like, that's saying, like, oh, it's part of the point to be exactly the sort of shallow thing that I'm trying to critique. I feel like along the way, it's like, man, this movie's gonna be badass, and hit another line of coke himself. And I appreciate that it's a well-made movie for what it is. I appreciate its place in pop culture. It just I just find it so irritating. But it's a well-made movie, and again, it's the thing where, like, it isn't a carbon copy. It takes, like, this 30s movie and updates it to the 80s and does something really different. And in that sense, I can appreciate why it's the right kind of remake. It's just a movie that I kind of hate.
There was to your point, and I think you're dead on with that too. A lot of that excess you're talking about, it was like Chris also said too, that was the point. Not saying that you're wrong, but that was the point. That's why they use the score they use, a lot of disco stuff. You see a lot of stuff, and it's supposed to portray all this insane excess, like, what to do with all the fucking cash?
It's a time capsule of the 80s drug era is really what it is.
That's true. So is Miami Connection. And I'd rather watch Miami Connection.
Yeah. But I think with Scarface, it really does hit upon a lot of the like the refugee stuff that was going on then, and then being put in the internment camps and stuff like that, living under the bridge at the beginning of the movie. Like, you really get I hate to say it, but it's kind of like, the American way of life, like, we're living underneath the bridge now. But once we get out of here, we're going to sell a bunch of cocaine, get the fuck out of here, and we're going to be millionaires. It's a time capsule that kind of captures the material excess of the 80s.
But also an idea of, someone's skewed interpretation of what the American way of life or the American dream is too.
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And it is.
And that's a lot of that what it is. That's what I've always found fascinating about that movie, ever since I saw it when I was a kid, was like, if you're a native citizen, you're born here, we kind of know that you run down through this gauntlet, and then you ultimately meet, the American dream, where you have a house and you have a couple cars and you have a family or whatever it might be, and you have some money in the bank and food in the fridge, and that's the American dream. But to other people, when they come from a different environment, well, that's where you get Scarface from, like, or at least this interpretation from '83, right? Where it's like, and there is a line from the movie that does sum it up, and it's a famous line from the movie. First you get the money, then you get the power, then you get the woman, right? Because all they were thinking about was pussy too. I mean, the whole damn movie, it's just all that, and there's a million lines that allude to that too. But that line right there, first you get the money, then you get the power, right? And that those two lines, like those two phrases right there, they were probably responsible for a lot of the 90s rap we had to listen to.
Oh, yes.
They modeled themselves after that. As a matter of fact, the box set I have...
It was all about that.
Yeah, the box set that I have of Scarface, they interview a ton of, like, rap bands or rap artists, and they're like, oh, that was my biggest inspiration was Scarface. I wrote all my songs about that stuff. We were obsessed with that. So, I mean, there's a lot of ways to look at it, and you're spot on, too. You're totally spot on. I can see why it would be kind of irritating. But it's also just a freaking badass movie, too. I mean, that movie was just the stuff of legend when we were kids. The chainsaw scene, man.
The chainsaw scene was so talked up. Like, you literally got, everybody's like, oh, you can't see that because the chainsaw scene is so nasty. It's going to get a rated X. And I'm thinking, oh, man, I got to see this now.
That's what all my friends are like, oh, you didn't see that yet? You're a loser.
I kept thinking, we're going to see this guy get sawed in half. And literally the camera pans to the left, and all you see is the guy's eye, It's not as violent as it was. But for what it was, it looked great. But the way they shot that, it's incredibly disturbing to see that. But that point aside, I mean, mixed reviews on that one here, but it's definitely a cool remake as far as being a remake.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing about Scar, I wouldn't have as big a problem with that movie as I did if it wasn't overhyped as like the end all and be all gangster movie the way that it is.
See, that's not true.
think
Yeah,
that-
I don't think
yeah.
it's the be end all and be all.
It is
great movie.
Goodfellas.
Yeah, Goodfellas. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't know. I maybe feel the need to like have more backlash against that movie than it deserves because just I don't know.
All right, so here's one I'm going to shit all over, dude. Get the wipes out.
Okay.
All right.
Clash of the Titans, the 2016.
Oh, dude.
No,
it's so
I
bad.
screwed up here.
No, it was like 2010.
2010. Sorry, I looked at a different date.
Yeah.
The 2010 Clash of the Titans.
You just don't.
What can I say that's good about that? Oh wait, nothing.
When Simply
Piece
does
of
not
shit.
remake Clash of the Titans. You
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
don't
do that.
it unless you're going to use real animation.
Yeah, from 81.
to do.
From
Yep.
81. There's nothing that will ever look like that movie.
Mm-hmm.
That movie was the 81 version.
Yes.
That movie was so damn cool. I know you did, Chris, and I know I did also. Because that thing was on constant rotation on HBO. So you could watch that thing like 4 times a day. And I did sometimes.
Yeah.
I watched that thing over and over again, dude. Watching the whole Medusa's lair scene, that just permanently scarred in my head. I cannot get that out, man. There was just something, all the claymation they did, it just looked so damn... It was so gritty and cool looking. And the colors... That's what was so... I think I've talked about the blood. Like Medusa's blood, when he whacks her head off, you see this blood. It's not blood. It looks like the blob. I talk about the blob. Like
it's like this dark, oily material.
It's very gelatinous, though, too. It don't flow like, it's more just a gelatinous thing. And it's just those details that just, man, I could watch that flick over and over again. And then here comes 2010. Hey, Amber, let's go see Clash of the Titans again. This will be totally great. I love the movie. And, oh, dude. Medusa.
I think you need to end your relationship with her, like, tonight.
I hope she's not listening right now. You're
out of shame because you took her to see
Out of
that
shame.
film.
I don't even know why we went to see that. I think we both loved Clash of the Titans. We both loved that movie,
Right.
and let's go check it out. And yeah, just the Medusa scene, which is I love to point out, is just this wispy little snake-like thing flying around in here and giggling and laughing, and I'm like, this is fucking Medusa, dude. No.
Yeah, that remake was pretty
There
terrible.
was nothing. It was horrendous.
And they actually sequelized it with Wrath of the Titans.
Yeah.
They
I
didn't even watch it.
can never quite believe that movie did well enough to get that because I've never met anyone who likes 2010's Clash of the Titans.
Hey, there's some weird people out there, man.
Yeah.
What were they thinking?
I don't know.
Well, taking something that, especially like at that time when like we were well into CGI overload,
Yes.
and like that was already getting super fatigued, and taking a movie that is just famous for its really good stop motion practical effects, and redoing it as just a CGI fest at like peak CGI burnout period, like, ugh, why?
Another one I really want to just poop on.
Yeah.
I mean, I want to poop on. I want to poop on.
To poop on it.
Yes.
Oh yes.
The Poltergeist remake.
Thank you very much. Didn't even watch it. Fuck it. Don't care. Don't want to see it.
Oh.
Yeah, I also did not watch it.
I had nothing going on one night, and I was like, I'm just going to go see this thing. And I knew it had been in development hell for a while. They had a hard time getting this movie out, and there was a lot of negative press and hype about it.
Well, imagine that.
Yeah. It is. It's not only just one of the most terrible movies I've ever seen. I think Sam Rockwell is in this as the dad, too, which is unbelievable that he would even take that role. But the Poltergeist remake, it literally like shits on the original because the original is almost 2 hours long.
Yeah.
Okay? You get to know these characters. You feel like you're part of the family.
Yeah.
You really sympathize with Jo Beth Williams wanting to find
Carol Ann.
Don't go into that. Anyways, I have a funny story about that.
This house is clean.
Back in the 90s, this band that I had called Kirk's Red Girlfriend, we wrote a song called Carol Ann, and it was literally the same music. We like repeated it for like 6 or 7 minutes, and then we put like this reverse voice effect on in the entire song. It's just us going, Carol Ann, don't go into the light. That's the entire song.
Obsessed much? Jeez.
But anyways, yeah. So moving on from
you need to provide a link to that song.
I gotta find
below
it.
this
Please,
podcast.
we
I've
need
got
an
it somewhere.
MP3, and we want to play it. We're going to use it as the theme
Loop.
music now for the show.
But no, the Poltergeist remake, you can tell they made like hard cuts to move the movie down from like 2 hours to like an hour and 20 minutes.
Ooh.
It's like brutal. Like there's whole sections that you can tell are missing that were there at some point.
See, and this is the thing.
Oh,
I know people.
weird.
I know people will say, because I think we're pretty honest. Like, I didn't see that movie,
Yeah.
and I didn't see it for a damn good reason. I know some people are like, well, how can you say you're going to shit on something?
Well,
When you haven't even seen it yet. So, well, yeah, I have. I saw the original,
Yeah.
and I'm telling you right now, if there's one thing I do have when it comes to that is instinct. When it comes to that, and look, I've seen the original Poltergeist. It was a fucking game changer.
It was.
It
Yes.
was that good, and I'm not wrong. You're not wrong. I don't need to see this remake.
No.
It's not. I don't need to see it. It's not going to be as good. It's going to be a waste of my time. I'm busy. You're busy. Mm-hmm. Sorry. So that's just an opinion. I know it's cool.
it's an opinion, but a lot of the times I think what the studios are thinking with a film like
and
Poltergeist
that was a fucking cash grab right there.
That is
straight
a
up cash grab.
Yes.
You know, I think remaking something classic like Poltergeist,
You're out of your mind.
A lot of the times it's cash grab number one. Let's try to reintroduce the kids of today, the millennials, to a story from the 80s that's
Go
pre-existing.
fucking. The movie's there. You can buy it. You can download it. You can squeeze it out of your ass. You can do whatever you want. You can get the movie. It's Poltergeist, for Christ's sake.
Yeah.
It's not hard to find. What's so hard to digest for the kids of today? What's so hard about that? Is it too much for them?
They're simplifying. You know, they're simplifying
Well,
and giving
that's my
them.
point.
They're force feeding them the hyper edit. Like
yes.
That's what
they
I'm saying.
can't,
Yeah.
they can't handle the 2 hours, so let's give them the hour and 20 minute.
You know,
cut.
this is so interestingly enough, the other night I got dinner with one of my coworkers and her daughter who's in her early 20s, and the topic of Poltergeist came up, and exactly this phenomenon that we were just describing happened, where my coworker was talking about how great Poltergeist is, like, oh yeah, Poltergeist is great, and then her daughter thought that Poltergeist was really boring and cheesy and really liked the remake. But when the remake came out, she was also like 20. So
Yeah.
like and I just shook my head.
Yeah,
and my coworker just shook her head. But it's
Everybody's
this
allowed
exact
not to- everybody's
like
allowed-
the young
Yeah.
millennials are like, you know, or
Yeah,
maybe the
I-
generation below the millennials. I
I
don't
don't want to
even
make it out
fucking
like
know.
I'm shitting on young people either. But that's one thing I'm going to say. Like, hey, you don't like Scarface. That's cool. No problem, man. But I'm going to say, you think that the original Poltergeist was boring and cheesy?
However, I will say that I think a lot of these kids will get a little bit older and learn a bit better. Like, I definitely remember, like, you know, seeing, like, The Lost Boys for the first time when I was a teenager after it had been, like, way too overhyped. And I thought, like, wow, this was, like, people told me this was going to be, like, the best vampire movie ever, and it's cheesy as fuck. And then a little bit later, the more I thought about it, like, wait, that it's kind of cheesy as fuck is kind of why it's so great.
Oh, that movie?
Yeah.
Like,
And, like, you know, I came around to it as I got a little bit older and realized, like, oh, this movie's super fun.
You know,
in part because it's got that.
I'll be honest with
camp
you.
to
That
it.
was out when
Yeah.
I was like in middle school. That movie turned me on to so much good music.
Yeah.
Like the People Are Strange cut that's in that. You know, it's
Yeah.
not the Doors, but it turned me on to the Doors, you know?
Yeah.
There's a lot of good music. Echo and the Bunnymen, In
Ooh,
Excess.
yeah,
There's a
yeah.
lot of good stuff in there. So
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's quit
Yeah.
shitting on movies for a few minutes here and talk about something that I know we're all going to like.
I was having fun pooping. Oh, the Willy Wonka remake was terrible.
Oh, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't even. That didn't even
Yeah.
make my list.
Yeah.
Sorry,
was.
Johnny.
It certainly
sucked.
was a movie.
It was a movie, all right.
That's another one though too. You know, I should have put that on this list just to shit on it. Let's keep shitting.
Although, you
All
know,
right.
I will say, in fairness to that movie, it is another one of those cases where it's not a remake of the Gene Wilder movie. It's another adaptation of the books. It's not really, it's not
This
a
is more
good
of a-
adaptation.
I would say this is a reboot. Myself.
It's a reboot, yeah. It's like, I see what it's going for. The problem with that movie is that its vision for what to do with the story is
Okay.
just at a base level not that good.
Yeah. Yes.
And like, I love Tim Burton. I've loved some of his other reboots. I really like Dark Shadows. His Dark Shadows movie is fun.
I love Dark Shadows, actually.
Yeah, his Willy Wonka is
Shockingly
kind
enough.
of a misstep. And basing Willy Wonka on Michael Jackson was
Willy
not
Wonka's
a good
not supposed to be
idea.
like that freaky Tim Burton thing. Willy Wonka's supposed to be like colorful and fun, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So
all right.
we can move along.
Yeah. Let's stop shitting for a minute.
I know. I'm
Little
almost out of
Shop
paper.
of Horrors.
Oh, fuck yeah.
That's something I know we're all gonna dig.
That
Yeah.
is
And I think we just talked about that.
super interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, we talked about that recently. I don't know if it was. It may have been last week. I don't know. It came up.
It was not last week.
It wasn't?
Nor was it the week before. I don't know.
I know
was
it
a few
came
weeks-
up.
It was a few weeks ago. I mentioned
yeah.
it.
Awesome. That was a 1986 remake directed by Frank Oz, and yeah, could watch that over and over again, man. I just love that flick. It's just, I mean, obviously, the plant. I forgot that damn name.
Audrey
too.
Thank you. God, my God, I'm so old. No memory anymore. I'm dying. I'm dying right here on the show.
I can tell.
Audrey too.
It's okay.
I mean, that the song. I mean, and it's a musical.
It is. Yeah, it was a stage musical first.
And there's few musicals I really dig, like that and the Blues Brothers. You know, those are like my two musicals I think I'm really into. What's there to say? I mean, there's the 86 remake, you know, watching Steve Martin just try to kill Bill Murray.
Oh, yeah.
Some of the fucking funniest shit I've ever seen. Just him trying to hurt him, just him putting his hand. Oh! I mean, I just can sit there and watch that and die laughing every time. You know, because he's into it. He's just totally into it. There's just all them great elements. Obviously, all the scenes with Audrey 2 are hilarious, dude. The songs with Audrey 2, it's a fun thing to watch, man. I don't know what else to say.
Well, there's a lot of dark comedy in that movie.
God.
Oh, yeah.
The songwriting is phenomenal.
Yes.
Rick Moranis just carries that role perfectly.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely in that like top 10 remake list too.
Totally.
So,
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
And
love that
definitely
movie.
probably the most different from the original remake that I can think of.
yeah.
Yeah.
You know what? I want to shit on some more stuff because I didn't even see this one either.
Yeah.
The Karate Kid, 2010.
Oh God. The remake
Come
is
on,
so
man.
bad. It's
Come
just
on.
so bad. It just didn't need to be done at all. You know, I just felt like Jaden Smith was getting like forced down our throats with that movie. He's just a horrible actor in the first place. So yeah, that Karate Kid remake literally it's diarrhea. If we're shitting on movies, that movie is literal cinematic diarrhea. There's no reason for it to exist.
Well, speaking of more diarrhea,
Oh,
now you know what? I might be okay. I'm gonna call this one out, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong though.
Yeah.
okay. I will definitely tell you if you're wrong.
The 2007 version of Halloween directed by Rob Zombie. Now, could that be a reboot?
No, that's a straight up remake.
That's
for
a
sure.
remake. Yes. Okay. So
Oh no, I'm
here's,
thinking about Halloween 2.
okay. So here's how I
That's
would look
more
at those
of a
films.
reboot.
I would
Yeah.
say that Halloween was a remake, and Rob Zombie's Halloween 2
Yeah.
is another cinematic dump.
Well,
Literally,
they're
but
pieces.
it's
they're
a reboot.
Both,
It's a reboot.
They're both shitty
Yeah.
though.
Yeah.
See,
yeah.
I enjoy the original Halloween. I mean, don't
The
get me wrong.
original Halloween.
No, I mean, I enjoyed the first Rob Zombie Halloween.
Yes, me
And-
too.
Yeah, and I mean, don't get me wrong. It obviously does not touch the original to me, and it was one that I went in real skeptical of
The
it.
fucking balls on him.
It's okay.
Anyways,
we
okay.
like what we like.
I'm talking about Rob. I'm just bitching. Like
Oh, Rob Zombie.
Oh, who the fuck you think you are?
Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, but like, okay, so what I like about that is that it does enough that's different, and like it builds up Michael's backstory, and then it
I
does.
don't want to fucking
fly
hear
off-
Michael's backstory. Sorry.
Oh yeah.
I'm getting emotional.
But again, there's no point in remaking something if you're gonna literally do the exact same goddamn thing again.
Well,
so
and-
doing something that's kind
how
of
about
different.
not doing it at all?
Well, yeah, I mean, okay. I enjoyed his remake.
Yeah.
If it didn't exist
Yeah.
at all, I wouldn't be sad.
We just said that.
If there was
Yeah.
like 3 Halloween movies and that was it, I wouldn't be sad.
Yeah.
The third being Season of the Witch.
I guess that's my point. All right, okay. I mean, that's my point, though.
Everybody stop screaming now.
We're having a spirited discussion on this subject. Sorry, guys. The listening audience, we're getting a little.
But
loud
yeah, I mean, his Halloween remake was very consistent with John Carpenter's Halloween. But then when we went into Halloween 2 by Rob Zombie, I'm sorry, Rob Zombie.
Fuck that.
Fuck you.
Shit.
Number one.
Yep.
The fucking balls on this guy.
Why do we make Michael Myers look exactly like Rob Zombie? Like, seriously, it's self-serving trash.
That's pretentious bullshit.
There's a certain amount of self-serving trash in every Rob Zombie movie.
Well, agreed, totally. But the problem is, too, you've got Sherry Moon playing Michael Myers' mommy.
Oh, God, this is just, I'm getting mad thinking about this.
And, like, they put this, like, hyper-surreal kind of, like, tripped-out supernatural story in it, too. And I'm just going, like, this is Halloween. This is not what Halloween is about. This is about a faceless killer walking around the town killing people. It's not about...
You mean the cult in Halloween 6 didn't do it for you?
Don't be quiet. He'll remake that one, too. No, we don't want that.
I'd totally go see a Curse of Michael Myers remake.
Okay, you know what?
No.
Just
you know what makes me
back
the most
Paul
about
Rudd again and miscast him again. And
you know what makes me the most angry about Rob Zombie's Halloween 2 is that he kills Danny Trejo also like that.
Yeah, like
that really pissed me off because I'm one of those guys. I love Danny Trejo. I think he's incredible, and I don't ever want to see him die like a bitch in anything, dude.
Yeah,
that guy's all tough guy to me, and that really bummed me out. That whole thing. Yeah, then that's the whole thing here. Yeah, I agree. Okay, he shot. Okay, it's a good remake, the original one, right?
Yeah, the first one.
Yeah. Did it have to be made? And the second one, no. The second one, that shouldn't have been made.
Never.
I'll question the first one. Did it have to be made?
No.
The second one should not have been made. I don't want to know backstories. I don't want a different spin on this thing.
Right.
I don't want to see Sherry Moon Zombie in any more fucking movies either. I'm over her too. Fuck Rob Zombie. Let's move the fuck on.
Okay, so speaking of
Jesus Christ,
remakes,
we are so mad tonight. I love it. Go ahead.
Remakes of iconic 70s horror movies.
Yeah.
One that I honestly enjoy, because even more so than Rob Zombie's Halloween, it's completely fucking different.
Yeah.
Is the remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Thank you.
I really liked
the
remake of Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
And because, like, that one, it knows that the original is really iconic, and it knows that if it did a straight-up remake, it wouldn't be good, so it takes the same concept and does something really, really different with it.
Well, and it's probably Zack Snyder's potentially best movie. I mean, I like all of his films, but this, it pays tribute to the original.
Yeah.
But it recreates those exact same scenarios and just goes for it, you know? So... And it looks good, and it sounds good, and you actually kind of connect with a lot of the characters in the movie.
Absolutely,
and then you get the zombie baby. I mean, the zombie baby is sweet.
Yeah, and, like, it flies off in really unexpected directions like that. Like, I remember seeing that in theaters and just, like, honestly being shocked that it went where it went, because it just, like, so did its own thing. And, of course, I mean... we talk about it being like Zack Snyder's probable best movie, but it was also written by James Gunn.
Right
around the time that he did the 1-2 punch of that and Slither, which are both awesome homages to 80s horror and both like really nasty splatterfests. And so Dawn of the Dead.
One that we have not mentioned yet, which I actually enjoy as a remake, a lot of people don't, is Peter Jackson's King Kong.
Remake. Peter Jackson's King Kong is good.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
It's too long. Even in the short version, it's too long. But it's fun, and it captures the spirit of the original.
It sticks with the story of the original.
Yes.
And Naomi Watts, I mean...
yeah.
Hi. Are you watching, Naomi?
She's probably not watching.
He's about to start touching himself.
Damn it.
You're watching right now.
Damn you, Naomi.
You guys ever see the 2013 remake of Carrie?
This is.
I mean, I didn't mean to derail that. I'm sorry, Chris. Did you?
No, it's okay. I don't care.
Right.
So I really like the 2013.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Julianne Moore plays the mother, doesn't she?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, now this is one where this is kind of, I'm sure a lot of people will say that this is blasphemous because the De Palma film is a huge classic and deservedly so.
Oh, yeah.
I think I like the 2013 Carrie slightly better because the character development works better to me, and I like all the depth of the character of the mom. Like, instead of this, like, really over-the-top camp villain as played, brilliantly, of course, by Piper Laurie, like, the mom is, like, a very realistically disturbed character, and, like, just all the ways in which, like, you sort of sympathize with her. Like, she's mentally ill, and she has struggles that she's dealing with very badly and taking everything out on her daughter.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, that... So it was directed by the... It's the same director as Kimberly Pierce, who was the director of Boys Don't Cry.
Yeah.
And it feels a lot like Boys Don't Cry to me. That it's like a very serious, dark, troubled coming-of-age movie in a sense. But she has telekinetic powers. And that's one that it's hotly debated. And I've had this debate with Michelle of, like, was it a cash grab or was it a remake that had a reason to exist to tell the story in a different way? I think it definitely had a reason to exist.
No, I enjoyed it. It was one of those one-off things. Amber just kind of got it from the library she works at, and I kind of walked in on it in the first 5 minutes, and I'm like, oh, whatever. This is gonna be a piece of shit. I see the original one, and I didn't feel that way. I sat through it. I was stuck to the chair, and I watched it, and I enjoyed it. It felt like it just felt like there was some work put into it. My thing with these remakes too is, you can tell these cash grabs. You can tell they just feel cheap. Like we were talking about Old Boy earlier. It just didn't feel organic at all. It just felt like it just felt plastic to me. It didn't work like you were saying also, Chris. Carrie felt right. It felt good. It was there for me. That's just for me, though. I mean, I'm sure somebody else could have a different opinion, but it just felt like it worked. It worked for me. I don't know.
Well, and Chloe Grace Moretz, I mean, she's really always really good too, and I think she did a pretty good representation. Of that character and kind of changing it a little bit from the Sissy Spacek version.
Which is tough to do. I mean, this is a tall drink of water. And there was another remake from 2002 that was directed by David Carson.
Yeah,
I never saw that.
That was a made-for-TV.
Was it made for TV?
One.
Yes, yep.
I hear that it certainly is a made-for-TV movie from 2002.
Yeah. I've seen it. It's not very good.
Yeah.
Here's an obvious one, too, and this is one that I think we all might dig, because they're both the shit. The Blob, 1988's The Blob.
Yeah.
That was the remake of the 1958 version.
Yeah, I mentioned this a few weeks ago.
We mentioned The Blob.
Yeah.
Great remake.
Yeah.
Shawnee
Insane
Smith.
special effects.
Shawnee Smith is in that?
Yes.
Yeah. Jennifer, what's her name? I think it's something else. Never mind. Nope.
Don't go
Strike
there.
those last couple of seconds. Shawnee Smith's in that. No, Johnny Depp's in that too, isn't he? Isn't it?
No.
No.
Who the hell's in there? Somebody else in that movie.
Johnny Drama's in it.
Johnny Drama?
Yeah, from Entourage.
Oh.
Matt Dillon's brother.
Yeah. All right, no, I'm mixing movies up, but the 1988 Blob, that was a lot of fun to watch.
Oh yeah,
fucking crazy to watch too. There was some really cool imagery that was done, all practical too.
Oh yeah,
the original, to me, those two, like
Kevin Dillon,
thank you. Yeah. Those two really sit like the 1988 and the 1958 version. That's one of those weird ones, like for me, where, I mean, it's a lot of times like the original, and I can't really. Looking at this thing, like the ones I've seen, like as far as I've seen both films, the Blob is one where they both just kind of sit even on the scale for me. They're both fantastic in their own way.
Yeah, they really are.
Yeah.
They really are.
And the Blob itself is just that weird. I mean, a different, and I think we were talking about like monsters or something. That's the show we talked about. The
Blob. Creatures.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yep.
A few weeks ago, and very different kind of monster. We've kind of went through that before, but a very, very different monster. Nothing like that ever.
Yeah.
I think we mentioned also though, like from Creep Show 2, there was the lake.
Oh yeah.
Kind of a different idea, kind of the same idea but different, cool idea. But the Blob was fun to watch. Both those were a lot of fun. I can watch both those over and over again. Really great films.
Oh yeah, and that's sort of the Blob is from an era of, like, in the 80s, there were a bunch of, like, really good special effects movie remakes of 50s sci-fi movies. And interestingly enough, I mean, these are movies, like, we all think of them as classics because, like, we grew up with them and, like, now they're enshrined as classics. But looking back at old reviews, all of them suffered from the same thing that a lot of these remakes suffer from, where there was this, like, knee-jerk, like, why the fuck are you remaking these classics? That's pointless. This is stupid.
Yeah.
So, like, that, The Fly, The Thing,
I was
like,
gonna say The
all
Thing.
those were really maligned as unnecessary remakes by a lot of people at the time, and now they're, like, some of the best, like, most beloved classics of that era. All three of those.
The Thing. I mean,
holy crap.
how many times has that movie come up on this show? I mean,
Oh yeah, it's a mainstay. It's one of them we talk about the most.
Yeah. And The Fly also. I've watched The Fly. It's one of those ones I've watched over and over again.
Yeah.
And that's another just hard movie to watch. It's so freaking disturbing.
So, and just emotionally devastating, too.
Yeah, totally. Well, the idea, I forgot that Cronenberg directed the 86 version of The Fly.
Mm-hmm.
There's just so many things that happen in that movie. The story of The Fly, too, it's just, I don't think he knows what's happening to him initially. Then he realizes.
Like, when I've heard somebody make the argument that movie is an allegory for watching a loved one die of a chronic illness, and it totally is. And, like, the emotions of that movie, like, that's why it feels like such a heavy movie.
Really?
Yeah, like, it taps into something real going on there.
Well, yeah, and when you do get to the end, it's like, well, it's a fly.
Mm-hmm.
But she loves him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck, man.
She loves The Fly.
She loves to fly.
She wants to get some of that.
She wants to fly unzipped. Where the fuck are we going with this? How long have we been going? Well, we've been going forever. Let's keep going. There's a lot more to cover here. So, yeah, we covered those kind of in a trifecta, The Fly, The Thing.
Yeah. Although The Thing is another one that is sort of less a remake of the film and more another adaptation of the novel.
Yeah.
Which, the original way simplifies it. Because, like, the novel is, like the John Carpenter movie, where it's a shapeshifter and it's very H.P. Lovecraft inspired. And, there's no way they could pull that off really well in the 50s. So they didn't.
I forgot about this one.
Oh, yeah?
No, this maybe you're wrong on this, though, too. So I'll risk being funny. Ghostbusters.
I'd say that's
Is that
more of a reboot.
Okay, that's why I was.
Yeah, that was a reboot.
Okay, so let's just scratch that one. Piece of shit, regardless. But okay, fine. Let's move on. You guys ever see The Gambler?
The original.
The original was from '74.
Yes.
Had James Caan in it.
Yep. It
I didn't
was remade with.
Yeah, it was remade. It was directed by Rupert Wyatt.
Huh.
Yeah, it's decent. The
I
remake's
didn't see
actually
the
decent.
remake. I didn't see
I've
the remake.
seen it.
I love the original.
It's a fair movie. It's not great by any means, but it's pretty tight.
Another one that shouldn't have been remade. Fright Night. Why was that? Why did that have to be remade?
See, now that's another one that I like the remake of Fright Night. Did you see it?
I saw half of it and I said no. I'm going away.
Yeah.
Okay, but tell me.
Yeah.
Because I could be totally wrong. I could be off the base here. Tell me what you think.
So what I like about it, again, it's not as good as the original, but what I like about it is that it updates everything to the present day in a way that really makes sense. Okay. Where, like, because, like, Charlie Brewster in the remake, like, he would have grown up on, like, the sort of 90s, like, Scream era of, like, snarky postmodern horror comedies.
Yeah.
And so the movie kind of takes on that feel, just like the original kind of takes on that, like, Hammer horror vibe that Charlie grew up on. And, instead of being, like, an aging Hammer horror star like a Vincent Price or something, Peter Vincent is like a washed up 90s celebrity magician, and like the way that they move it all forward kind of works and lets it stand on its own. And I mean, Anton Yelchin, of course, he was always great, and he's really good in that. I really I thought David Tennant was really fun as Peter Vincent. And Colin Farrell was fun as Jerry, and I like how all those characters are really different from the original, especially
Yeah,
Peter
they definitely
Vincent and Jerry
change up.
Dandridge.
Yeah.
Because like they know that you're not gonna play the exact same character and come close to living up to Chris Sarandon and Roddy McDowall in that original movie, so they
Right.
make it their own thing. And so yeah, like I totally get why you might not like it, and like that's totally fine, but like it felt different enough that like those two movies can coexist to me.
What about Evil Dead?
That is a remake.
Yeah,
To a certain extent.
to an extent.
Yeah. You know,
That right?
Okay.
How are you going to remake that or
well,
reboot,
they
or
were
whatever?
Okay, so here's the thing with that. Let's imagine that this is a remake. I actually, when I first saw the new Evil Dead, I despise this movie with such hatred that literally I would have pissed on this movie if I could.
If there was a movie in front of him, he would have pissed on it.
Yes, but now I've actually watched that movie a few more times, and I kind of appreciate more what they've done with it.
Yeah.
I do. I am a person that I know a lot of people get shitty about this, but I'm that guy that I do like when they translate a once male character to a female character. And I think that was really smart of them to not try and recreate Ash, but instead to go for a female lead this time. I thought that was actually really smart. I think the story writing in the movie is actually pretty good too. They kind of modernized it with, hey, we're going away to this cabin so she can kind of detox. Mm-hmm. That was kind of the point of the story. And then everything goes haywire.
Yeah.
There's a lot of elements from the original Evil Dead in this movie, them finding the book, the audio tape, all that kind of stuff is all in there. I really do like the fact that, yes, this, for the most part, remakes the Evil Dead, but they don't repeat a lot of things also. And I do like the fact that they said this movie exists in the same universe as the original Evil Dead. So this is potentially still the same cabin, and at one point they were going to try to interconnect those two stories. Now, I think the movie didn't do that well at the box office, so that never happened.
Yeah.
But I always imagined that would have been really cool, that somehow she hooks up with modern day Ash and that story continues.
Yeah.
So,
I agree. I really enjoyed it. I was super skeptical. And yeah, I also, like I was just saying about Fright Night, I like how they did not try to recreate Ash as a character, and just
because he's an icon.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so I liked that. The thing that pulled me out of that movie was that there's some CGI that's really not good for the Deadites.
Yes.
But aside from that, it's solid. But yeah, like not having Ash be a character, because like that Ash is Bruce Campbell, like when there's that close of an association.
Right.
And that is why, like we sort of touched on this last week, that's why, well, among other reasons, that the Elm Street remake was so bad, is because as much as on paper Jackie Earle Haley was well cast, like Freddy is Robert Englund, and it feels wrong, and like it never sells, like you never can accept
that somebody else is playing that character. Like how I feel about this new Han Solo movie. Like, dude, you're not Han Solo. Just go away.
Yeah, well, because like unlike Fright Night, where they make it a totally different character, where like he's not trying to be Chris Sarandon, like Jackie Earle Haley was stuck trying to be Robert Englund, and he's not.
Yeah, and that's just that. It's another one of those ones I just won't go see. It's like I don't need to see this.
And
I mean, as I was very clear on last week, I had a hard enough time with Nightmare on Elm Street as it was. I mean, it's not one of my favorite franchises. Fun to watch, but okay. I finally get myself good with it now, and no, I'm not going to go and throw a monkey wrench in the whole operation.
Don't,
I'm not
don't
doing
do
it. I'm not going to waste my time, man.
Yeah, it also, given what a like entertaining, like darkly comedic villain Freddy was in the original series, that the remake felt the need to like really obviously hammer home the fact that he is a pedophile and make him just like a straight up child rapist instead of a serial killer. It was a deeply uncomfortable viewing experience and made it just like not a fun movie, and it made me feel like I wanted to take a shower, And like that does not,
Yeah.
like, oh, I just felt like all grimy coming out of that movie because like they just hammer that home so hard, and
Yeah.
like it's sleazy.
Well, and the fact that Jackie Earle Haley had already played like a pervert in a previous movie. I'm trying to remember the name of it right now. But it was like right around that same time.
Yeah.
It was I'm sorry guys. Bear with me.
Come on, hurry up.
Yeah, he had just played a pervert in God, I'm trying to remember the name of the movie right now. What's wrong with me? Little Children. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds great.
Yeah. So, and then he did that, character of Freddy right after that. It just felt weird,
Yeah.
Repetitive is the term.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, and just like really unnecessary.
yes.
And like, I don't know, horror movies just like gratuitously using rape as a plot device to just amp up the ick factor for no reason.
Yeah.
Is just sleazy and just like, never do that.
All right.
Yeah.
What else you guys got?
Dracula, 1992.
Oh,
Francis Ford
yeah.
Coppola.
shit, yeah.
Yeah.
That
I
movie
mean,
is
that
so
is
good.
literally one of that sits in that top 10
Fantastic.
queue also.
It has one too many Keanu Reeveses to be the best Dracula ever. His horrible British accent is the one thing about that movie that isn't amazing.
Yes.
Otherwise, like that is my favorite adaptation of Dracula. Sorry, Bela Lugosi, but it's so good.
Well, the makeup work
yeah.
on Gary Oldman, I mean, and when he becomes like the bat-human hybrid thing,
Uh-huh.
I mean, you just don't get effects like that anymore because that would all be CGI now.
Yeah,
But this really captures the essence of the Dracula story,
it does.
and the casting is great. Anthony Hopkins is phenomenal in this
Yeah,
movie.
he is
so,
the best Van Helsing. He can
yes,
kick Hugh Jackman's
absolutely.
ass.
But yeah, definitely that is one of the better remakes that I've seen. For
Oh
sure.
yeah, and it is also in the sort of like underappreciated triptych with the Kenneth Branagh Frankenstein and the Wolfman
Yeah.
that also had Anthony Hopkins in it. Which all three of those are from the same producer or
I
the same
think so.
screenwriter.
I
like
think so.
they're definitely connected.
Are
And
you
all
talking about
three
the
of those are really
Wolfman
good.
with Benicio del Toro?
Yes.
That one? Oh, that's such a horrendous movie,
So
though.
I like it. It's the worst
Yeah.
of those three, but I enjoy it. I like it quite a lot, actually. Because it's got that same gothic vibe. I mean, yeah, as does the Frankenstein with Robert De Niro as the monster.
Yeah.
But that Dracula, just neither of those two can touch. Like, that Dracula is so good.
Yeah, the Frankenstein was good, though, too.
Yeah.
The Frankenstein was a really good film, also. I've watched that a bunch of times. I like how different Frankenstein looks in that, too.
Yes.
You know, he's more human this time around, so yeah.
Yeah, well, and I mean, in the novel, he's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I like about those two is, like, the monsters are sympathetic. And, like, Dracula especially really plays out like a tragic romance. And I don't it's so good.
Yeah.
What
Anybody
else
got
you
any
got?
more?
No, I'm
Let's see.
burnt out here
I don't know,
on my list.
Oh, well,
Tried it.
because given that Arlie Ermy did just die, we got to talk about Willard.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Let's wrap it up with Willard.
Yeah. I
didn't
Let's
see-
wrap it up.
no, I didn't
In
see
memory of
Willard,
Arlie
so-
Ermy. Yeah,
All right,
Yeah.
do it.
Man, that movie's really good. Like, it's like you were saying before we started. Yeah, it's faithful to the original, but it's really its own thing, and it's got that just like really unhinged, crazy gothic style. And
In Crispin
Crispin
Glover,
Glover. That is the ultimate Crispin Glover movie.
I would agree with you there.
Yeah.
Yeah, he really captures that character. Any movie about rats freaks me out.
Yeah.
They just give me the willies, you know?
Yeah.
And this movie is, it's horrifying.
Yeah.
You know?
And it's just like the whole vibe of the movie is just like real crazy, just like descent into madness.
Yup.
And and like the Crispin Glover performance to end all Crispin Glover performances, and then he sings Ben for the soundtrack. He covers it
that's right, I
himself because
forgot
he's
about
Crispin
that.
fucking Glover.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good movie. And Arlie Ermy is his usual, just uncompromising.
Yup.
Crazy
badass,
self, yeah.
hard ass. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a great movie.
Oh yeah.
I have to see that. We talked about that before the show a little bit, and I'm like,
Yeah.
it's another one I should put on my list. So I have not
Absolutely.
seen Willard before.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Well, all right, remakes.
All right. Remakes.
We
Remakes.
covered everything. It's all done.
it's all done. There
All
were
you-
no other
there's
remakes.
No other
to come.
remakes.
In the future, though, when we need to cash in and we're out of ideas, we should redo this episode. Again.
Oh,
Oh
great
yeah.
idea.
Let's
But
remake.
we'll wear different shirts.
yeah.
Yeah. We need different people on the site, but playing us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Let's
There we go.
remake
Let's-
the remake
Let's do
podcast.
that. Let's do that next week.
Yeah.
Let's just
All
do
right.
that next week, and the week. Yeah, that's
All
a
right.
great idea, Chris. Awesome.
All right. Be with us next week when we remake
this
the
episode.
remake and remake the remake podcast. It's about
We
remake.
could get ourselves caught into a just do like
Remade.
Just go into a vortex and just keep remaking and remaking and remaking and remaking and remaking.
Let's just do the same podcast every week.
Yeah. See how many people actually listen. See how long it takes them to notice.
Yeah.
What are they going to talk about this week? I don't know.
Remakes. This week they're
Remakes.
remaking the remake.
They're going
of
to
the
talk
remake.
about the remake of 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 the remake.
Visit us at www.themoviesleuth.com and find The Movie Sleuth on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and iTunes.